As you can see, like we are done with the creation of the product and the order application in terms of controller services, repository, and all those stuffs. So now it's time to create a generic response handler, right? As we are returning the normal or traditional response back to UI. So it's time to create a generic response handler we can which can send the consistent response throughout all the APIs. Okay, so let's try to create a folder first. So inside the helpers, create the we have responses already, and we have created the API responses where you can find the success message, data, and errors, and this is the controller where we are going to pass the values, and this is the response helper. So response helper generally used to collect the either success message or error message, or success method or error method. So if the success method, then it will call that particular API response controller. Similarly for fail also, the point is like it will pass the data like the field whether true or false. Okay, so if you go to the response helper, so response helper is having one property that is called success. So from the API response, if you're passing true, means it is a success. And from the API response, if we are passing false, means it is a failed, like failed. The response was failed. So response helper dot success or response helper dot fail. This kind of a method we have to call while generating the response. Okay. So let's create the first response. So if you go to the first post method, or we'll try we what kind of method? Okay, we have a get method also. So let's try for get method first. Now in the get method, let's try return. Okay. And then response helper dot success. As you can see, I have already written the response helper dot success where I am returning the list of products and product phase successfully. Similarly for get by ID, so this is the get method which is returning all the list of products. This is the get by ID method which is returning the specific list of product by ID. So here also I am using the response helper dot success where I am sending the one product and the one message that is product is fetched. Similarly for post also I have created. Then put also I have created. So as you can see, I was calling only response helper messages. So as you can find, like as you can see, like response helper dot fail, response helper dot success, both the methods I was calling here. So we'll try to execute the Swagger endpoint, and we'll see like what kind of responses we are getting from all the endpoints. It will take some time to build the application. It will run. So as you can see, the build is succeeded, and now a Swagger page will open in the Chrome browser. Now, as you can see, our Swagger page is up and running, and now it's time to execute the endpoint. So we'll try to execute the product endpoint first. So we are expecting the standard response from the response helper which we have created. So let's wait for getting the response back from the endpoint. As you can see, we are getting the standard responses from here. So as you can see, like we don't have data, so we'll have to insert the data first in the product. So let's say we'll try to insert a product that is called laptop, and price make it as 50,000. And let's create and execute, or as soon as we execute, you can see the structured responses we have started receiving from the endpoints. Okay, so now let's try to insert one more product that is called mobile and make it as 45,000. And let's try to execute that endpoint also. As you can see, product is created successfully, data is 2. And now let's try to execute the endpoint of get. What kind of a data we are getting? So as you can see, the similar structure was following in all the endpoints. In get endpoint also, you can see the success is true, message is product fetched successfully, and second is the array of data, and there is no errors. Okay, So let's try to execute one of the endpoint, that is get by ID. So this is the endpoint where we can fetch the data or product by ID. So let's try to execute the get endpoint with ID2. The ID2 is exist for mobile. So as you can see, we have received the data, but error is null. So let's try to add the ID which is not exist. So as you can see, products not found. So this is how the structured API responses should be designed.